Welcome to the Industry Angel Podcast. We hear from the best business minds across the globe. Entrepreneurs, social influencers, marketing mavens, and sales rock stars. We've got them all. Here comes your weekly dose of inspiration with your host, Ian Farah.
Welcome to episode 66 of the Industry Angel. It's great to be back in your earbuds, car stereo. Is stereo still a word? Yeah, of course it is. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I am so jealous. These UK mornings are getting so nippy. Now there's a word for you. Right, quick shout out to Erica Ledbetter and her colleague Karen Brown. Thanks for listening. I had a great day working with you yesterday. Thanks to my friend Linda Hipman at Exclusive Business, who sponsored this week's episode. Exclusive Business have a fantastic lunch club. It's all about building relationships, making connections of value, and the next lunch is the 30th of October at the Newcastle Crown Plaza, and Chris Patton will be speaking. So if you'd like any information, contact Linda at exclusivebusiness.net. Linda invited me to their September lunch, and who should I be sitting next to? Only today's guest. Today we have the founder and event producer from Newcastle Startup Week. Welcome to the Industry Angel, Paul Lancaster.
Hey, hi Ian, how's it going?
Excellent, great to have you with us, Paul, and I'm excited for you to tell us all about Startup Week, which can be neatly summarised. I'm going to take this off your website, okay? A citywide, a multi-venue festival, 5 days, 5 nights, 5 themes, 50 speakers, 500 entrepreneurs. So I'm loving that. But before we dive into that, Paul, we want to know, who is this wizard behind the curtain, okay? We need to give our audience some background. And you term yourself as a super connector, so come on, over to you, mate. What's going on?
Right, yeah, thanks for the intro and thanks for asking me onto the show. So, I don't know if you've read the book, or a lot of your listeners might have read it, but there's a famous book by a guy called Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Point.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that when it first came out, and the book's all about how there's loads of great ideas and businesses all around the world, but a lot of them fail and some of them succeed. And he tried to explain what the ingredients were to make ideas successful. And he basically said that he figured out that you need 3 types of people to make something successful. So you need what's known as the mavens. So the mavens are the people who actively seek out new ideas. They just got a hunger and a thirst for new ideas and new ways of doing things, and they just get excited to discover things like that. Then you have what's known as the connectors, and the connectors are the people who, they won't just tell maybe 1 or 2 friends or family. They'll actively go out of their way to look through their phone book and all their contacts and say, well, who do I know that would benefit from knowing about this idea or this business? And then you have the salespeople, the people who will then actually sell the product or the service or the business. So when I was reading that, I was thinking, I think I'm a maven and a connector.
Yeah.
So there's not many super connectors out there. There's some connectors, but I think I'm the best connector there is. So I'm calling myself the super connector, and it's stuck.
I love it. Do you know what it is? I think I might upstage you because obviously I'm a sales professional. Okay, so Maven connector sales. I'm going to be an ultra connector.
Do it. You can honestly. Well, that's the thing. I'm not a sales. I'm definitely not a sales. I've got no training in sales, but marketing, PR, content marketing, inbound marketing. It's all the lines are getting blurred, isn't it? So persuasion, influence, all that sort of stuff. So
it's a great point that what you mentioned there about the lines being blurred. It's funny. I did a show recently on a podcast in the US, and I was introduced as a 5-legged sales unicorn, and that was a bit tongue in cheek as well.
Right.
Because these lines are getting blurred, I'm kind of sick of seeing job descriptions for sales guys which want them to be, like you say, super connector, marketing guru, a sales professional, a social media expert, and it's like they list off all these things, and these people don't exist.
No, it's very rare. I mean, I think it is. Well, it's hard to find the mavens and the connectors and the salespeople anyway. If you've got all three, you've got a pretty good chance of being successful. So you definitely need to try and find those people. And if you haven't read that book, I definitely recommend reading the tipping point, because it explains exactly why you need these people.
Well, thanks for that background. So there you go. There's the super connector. There's your man. And you mentioned curiosity. Now, we're all curious here, and you must have been curious to start the Startup Week. Now, I am super interested in this because, was it the first one this year, Paul?
Yeah. So we did like you said before, we did a 5-day citywide festival, Newcastle Startup Week Festival. And as far as I know, no one's ever done a 5-day citywide Startup Week Festival in the UK, let alone Newcastle in the northeast of England. They've done things like Fashion Week and Social Media Week, but no one's done a Startup Week. So the thinking behind that was I've been helping other people start and grow their own business for about 15 years. I've been working for enterprise agencies, youth enterprise schemes. I've worked for small businesses. I've worked for big corporates like Sage, the FTSE 100 software company. I've worked for government organisations. I've done all kinds of things where I've worked with startups and signposted and given advice and a little bit of funding and all that sort of stuff. But then I finally started my own business last year. So I've been doing all of that for 15 years. And then I thought, well, it's about time I bloody well did it myself. Because you get to a point where you think, I'm actually the most well-connected. I've read all the books. I've got all the knowledge. But this event or this program isn't aimed at me. It's aimed at the startups. And what you find is most people don't know where to go for help and advice.
Okay.
So I thought I'll try and distill all of that knowledge. I'll put it all on a plate for people, and I'll pull in all what I think are the best places to go for help and advice, and the best people in that 1 week, so that people can learn in 5 days what it would normally take them maybe 5 months or even 5 years to find. So I've been thinking about doing it for a few years, but I've always had a day job. But this is my day job now. So I thought there's a gap in the market. No one is doing this sort of thing. People still struggle to know how to get that idea out of their head and actually take the first steps to starting a business, and then how to get started, where to go for funding and finance, how to grow and scale once they're up and running. And then on the final day, it was keep going or pivot. So do you keep going? How do you keep going? Do you change direction? Do you give up? Which sometimes that is the right thing to do. So it worked really well. I set myself a personal target of 500 people, and we had over 600 delegates across the week, which I was delighted with. Feedback's been amazing from all the speakers, the delegates, and the sponsors and partners. So we're doing it again next year. We've already picked the dates and booked the venues. So that'll be the 14th to the 18th of May.
So let's just summarise that, Paul. So those 5 themes, you whizzed across them. Let's break them down. So there was 5. Sure. So that was five themes over 5 days, yeah? Yeah.
So the thinking behind that was that all my experience and what I'd learned along the way, I thought, okay, right. So day 1 was Inspiration Day. Mm-hmm. So that was very much the big event, where it had the broadest appeal. So anyone who just had an idea, but they didn't know what to do about it. People who were pre-start, brand new startups that they were on the verge of starting up, had started or were already in business, as well as the business advisors, the investors, and like the other professional services and support network around that. So anyone who was interested in starting a business or supporting startups, that was for them. So and that day 1 was at the Boiler Shop in Newcastle behind the train station, which, I don't know how many listeners will know that, but that was the world's first locomotive steam engine. So George and Robert Stephenson, George is known as the godfather of railways or the grandfather of railways, and in many ways that was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Yeah, stemmed from that area. So it was the perfect venue for Inspiration Day, because we wanted to celebrate our local success stories of the past, present and future, and kind of show that we were celebrating the past but looking to the future and trying to kickstart a whole new entrepreneurial revolution in Newcastle in the northeast of England. So that was day one, and we had, what was important as well was, of the 50 plus speakers, there were only about 4, maybe 5, I think, who were not from the region. And I thought that was important. So they were either not from the region, almost all of them were from the region or had moved to the region or just were heavily invested into the region.
Okay.
And I thought that was important as well, because I've been to loads of events where they fly in all these amazing speakers, inspirational speakers, but because they're not from the area, I think that reinforces the feeling that to be successful, you have to come from somewhere else. And I wanted to get across, I wanted to create a platform and shine a light on our local success stories to show that you can come from anywhere if you've got the passion, you've got the ideas, you've got the commitment, and you've got the support around you. You can do it.
I totally agree. I'm really glad you said that. I'm delivering a course next week, and I was trying to think of some examples to use about, and what you always see, you see the Apples, don't you? You see the Amazons.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And it's just, yeah, okay, you can use them for some examples because you've got to, because they've done something different. But there's some great companies out there, and I'm all for, like shouting about some of these smaller companies who are doing some amazing things, especially from a customer service point of view. Some are absolutely killing it.
I think it's lazy as well. I mean, even at a local level, right? So, I mean, the typical thing, you always, whenever the government makes an announcement about tech or digital or something, they'll say, oh, who knows, we might have another Google or a Facebook. It's like, come on, man, like, you're not going to have another Google or another Facebook, because that's been done. Like, and it had a unique set of circumstances that create that business, right? So, it always used to annoy me when I used to do the social media inbound marketing for Sage, which we've mentioned. It's like FTSE 100. It's the world's biggest small business software provider, right? So FTSE 100, global success story, still headquartered in Newcastle, where it was started in the 80s, right? And even though I was working for that company doing marketing and PR, you'd speak to the journalists and you'd tell them about Sage, and they'd be like, well, how can that be? Like, how can you have a company that big and that successful in Newcastle? Why is it not in London? Surely tech only happens in London. So that's a problem, right, at a national level. But then you'd have the politicians and the journalists always saying, particularly the politicians, how they wanted to create more Googles and Facebooks. It's like, why don't you say, let's create more Sages?
Yeah.
Like everybody in the Northeast should be proud of Sage, and everybody in the country should be proud of Sage. We should, and those, there's a reason why those companies grew up where they did, and there's success stories right across the country. And the work I was doing for Tech North, which I'll go into a little bit later if you want, but I was travelling across the 7 cities in the north, so Newcastle, Sunderland, Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield and Hull. And there's amazing tech and digital businesses everywhere. Just people have never heard of them, or they're kind of head down, just cracking on with it. They're just smashing it, but they're not really shouting about it, or they're kind of the company's not well known, but the brands that they have are well known, or they're white label, or they're kind of back office systems and stuff like that. But they're not so good at shouting about themselves.
I totally agree. And I don't know how we get over this. I don't know what we can do to get that kind of modesty out the way. But I mean, we've got a thriving digital and creative sector here in Newcastle, and we're noted now for being one of those cities in the UK that have that. So you mentioned Tech North here. Why don't you go? Let's go into that for a few minutes. Yeah,
sure. So little brief history lesson. So Tech City UK, when that was first set up around about 2012. There was a bunch of like Mike Butcher from TechCrunch and various other influential people in London kind of started lobbying the UK government and saying, well, there's something kind of happening here in the East End of London, around Old Street Roundabout and Shoreditch area, where there's these little sort of communities of developers and startups springing up. So why don't you get behind that and kind of pour a bit of fuel on the fire and just kind of act as a catalyst and create some momentum around that, which they did, and they created this thing called Tech City UK. Well, at the time it was just Tech City, and very much focused on Shoreditch and Old Street Roundabout. And it's funny, at the time they were talking about London being this great tech hub, and at the time in 2012, even the journalists were saying, "What a ridiculous idea! Why? How could London be a tech hub? Losers are in London, successful businesses are in Silicon Valley," right? So it's funny how things change, right? But then the fair dues, they've put the money, they've put the PR, they put the marketing behind it, and now London is regarded as the best place in Europe to start a tech business. So you've got the startups, and you've got the big companies like the Googles and the Facebooks and all these have moved into London. The downside of that is it's pushed the rents up, so it's kind of forcing the startups out. So they're having to move away, and some are even moving to other countries. They're going to Berlin or Stockholm or Lisbon or whatever. But around about 2015, the various northern stakeholders started speaking to Nick Clegg. Remember him? Used to be the Deputy Prime Minister. He's from Sheffield, and there's a guy called Lee Strafford who was the founder of PlusNet, which is from Sheffield. So he kind of had the ear of Nick Clegg, and he said, "Well, why don't we have a version of Tech City but in the north?" So eventually they set up this thing called Tech North, and it was going to be a branch of Tech City UK, but with a specific remit of promoting and accelerating the digital sector in the northern cities, the 7 major cities. So I was at Sage at the time, and I remember reading about it and thinking, bloody hell, at last, like this, this is great. So I wasn't even applying for a role at the time. I just thought, well, this is great. I'm going to get behind this. What in any way, I think this is a great idea to kind of rebalance the UK economy and just trying to level the playing field a little bit and show that you don't have to move to London to be successful. So they created Tech North, and a role came up, which was to be community engagement and partnerships manager. So I applied for that, and it was basically the perfect role for me because it was a bit of grassroots networking and influence, so being the eyes and ears of the team, hearing who was doing what and where the exciting things were happening, from a startup all the way up to a corporate level, doing a bit of matchmaking and introductions like the connecting, the super connecting that I was talking about, bit of marketing and PR, and also trying to encourage journalists and investors to pay more attention to what was going on in the north. So it was a perfect role for me. Like I say, did that for 8 months, and then I thought, you know what, like, although I love this, I love what I'm doing. Newcastle in the northeast, that is where my biggest passion is, and I've wanted to start my business for about 5 or 6 years. So now's the time. So I left Tech North, and I started my own business on the 1st of April last year. And I'm basically trying to do what I was doing for Tech North, but just for the northeast of England and independently as well. So not relying on government funding, and just my own entrepreneurial kind of guile, and to try and to work with clients to help them grow, which brings in a bit of money. And then I do still do a lot of stuff for free or a low cost, because I want to help. And then the events are the bigger platform for me and people that I work with. So
well, let's hope we can answer that modesty that we spoke about earlier and get people.
Yeah, honestly, that is a big problem, but it's a problem right across the north. The only place where it's not really a problem is Manchester. Okay. So I've blogged about this Mancunian swagger in the past, where I love Manchester. It is a fantastic city.
I'm really glad you said that, because I'm just about to see all these listeners just pull the plug there.
No, right, but I don't know. I'm a massive fan of Factory Records, Tony Wilson, Hacienda, the whole Manchester scene, the music, the vibe, the culture, all that sort of stuff, which sprung up around it. But then you've got the Gallaghers, Oasis, you've got Happy Mondays, you've got even Manchester United. I mean, Manchester United, I think most people admire Manchester United, but they don't necessarily like them. Okay? And I think sometimes I've got lots of friends in Manchester. Sometimes that confidence can go over. It can push into arrogance or perceived arrogance, and there's a bit where sometimes I don't know. There's a bit of a joke where you'll have a press conference for the opening of a crisp packet sometimes, like in some of my Manchester friends. But that's great, they're really good at selling themselves and the city, and they really do. There is that strong brand behind Greater Manchester, and Manchester is known all around the world. But Newcastle and other parts of the northeast, we need a bit more Mancunian swagger. We've got to do it our own way. We don't want to copy it. We don't want to be just like them, but we do need to be a bit more confident. That famous phrase, "Shy Ben's getting out," is so true. Because
we aren't shy Ben's because we wear next to nothing in the winter. I think that's what we're famous for, isn't it? You walk around the big market in December and the girls have got little skirts on, the lads have t-shirts on.
Yeah.
That's why we can't swagger. We're so cold. We're stiff as a board.
But yeah, it is an issue, I mean, there's another friend and former colleague at Tech North, Laura. She's so passionate about Sheffield, which is where she's from. And she shared with me an article about the history of Sheffield being this great maker city. It's got this history because of the steelworks, where you'd have lots of tiny little workshops of tinkerers and like people that would maybe make a cog or a spring or a bracket or something like that. So it's almost in the DNA of making things in Sheffield. But throughout history, you would make things in Sheffield, but you had to go to Manchester to sell them. So it's fascinating when you read into it that each city and each region has its own unique identity and DNA. So when people talk about the Northern Powerhouse, it's not one homogenous area. There are distinct and unique differences between each town and city that you've got to respect and be mindful of. So a lot of what we were doing in the early days with Tech North was understanding what makes the North, what makes the North different to London, but what makes each city unique and different to each other, and then how they all fit together and how they complement each other. And what a lot of cities and councils and regional bodies make the mistake doing is they'll say, come to our city or our town because we're amazing at everything.
Okay.
And that's not true. You have to have a bit more self-awareness where you say, this is what we're really good at, and if you want something else, you should actually go to Manchester or Liverpool or Leeds or Sheffield or Hull,
I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, even on this show we talk about people being quite niche, and instead of going a mile wide, go a mile deep and an inch wide, and really be good at what you do. So that would be brilliant if you had all those different regions and cities sort of saying, we're good at this, let's come together and the sum of our parts,
Yeah. Well, from what I know, I don't know a huge amount about the German economy, but like from what I know, there are distinct regional hubs, and they have been very good at decentralising that and saying that Berlin is this and different cities are this. So whereas in this country, this is frustrating as a northerner, that there is that kind of assumption and arrogance that everything has to come from London. So. And it can't and it shouldn't. Yes, London is an amazing city, it's financial capital, it's got loads going for it, but it's not necessarily the best place to start and grow a business. And actually it's probably the worst place to start a business if you're a tech business where you've got very little money behind you, because you'll burn through that money very, very quickly, and you might actually be better off locating your team in a northern city but having a small team in London who are doing the sales or meeting the investors down there. But you'll have a much longer runway if you're based in the north than if you're based in London, which is the most expensive city in the world.
You're dead right. We've got a good quality of living up here. It's a lower cost of living, 5 great universities. So hey, Paul, we're going off on one here, and I think I've just lost about 1,000 London listeners there. Have just hung up as well. So, listen, let's get back to start of week, because we only got through one day, which is inspiration.
Oh, sorry. Okay, right. Sorry. So inspiration.
Inspiration.
That was day one.
We got inspired. We were
Yeah,
off
we
on
got
one.
inspired. Yeah, we did. Really, as you can tell, I'm really passionate about this sort of thing. So day one was Inspiration Day. And so I said we had over 600 people across the week. Day one had 400 people there. We had 400 seats and we filled them all, right? And then on Tuesday was getting started. So Tuesday to Friday was smaller venues around the city of 150 to 200 people. So on day two was getting started. So your practical first steps to getting started. You've been inspired, now what? Okay, how do you bring that idea to life and take those first steps? Then Wednesday was funding and finance. So we covered everything from grants, loans, crowdfunding, angel investors and VCs. Then on Thursday we had, on day four, we had growing and scaling. So what I meant by that was sales, marketing, PR, recruitment, personal development and mindset. And then on the final day, day five, was keep going or pivot. So how do you keep going? Do you keep going? Do you change direction? Or do you give up? Or do you exit? How do you do all that sort of thing? So the thinking was we'd take people on a bit of a journey through the week. So of the 600 plus people, there was a hardcore group of about 100 that went everything day and night, because we had parties every night as well, networking events every night. So it was amazing. I mean, honestly,
It's fuzzy in the morning.
Yeah, but it was fantastic. It really was an amazing experience. So there was a hardcore group of people that went everything. But I knew the theory was that not everyone would go to everything. So when people bought a ticket, they got a wristband, which meant they could go to everything, or they could just dip in and out, as and when they wanted to. And what we found was that did actually work really well. So Monday had the broadest appeal, so that had the biggest crowd. But then the Tuesday and Wednesday appealed more to the pre-start and the early stage businesses, and then the Wednesday and Thursday onwards appealed more to the people that were a bit further on, so they were already up and running in business.
So what it sounds like is it's all ages, backgrounds, disciplines, just everybody coming together, different sectors.
Well, we spent a lot of time and effort on trying to reach different audiences as well, and that when we look at the feedback, that is one of the things that has come out, that people are really, really pleased to see that we did manage to attract people from all ages, all walks of life, different demographics, different types of businesses. So it wasn't a tech conference, because the word startup tends to be associated with tech startups, but I wanted it to be that anyone who had an idea for a business or a project, this was for them, and it worked. The strategy worked, and so I was really, really pleased to see that. And I think the type of speakers that we had as well, and the different venues that we used as well, appealed to different audiences. So really, really excited. Like I say, next year we've already booked the dates and the venues, and I've already got some amazing speakers lined up. And I'm not sure if I can say who they are yet, but some of them will be familiar to some of your speakers, some of your listeners.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a little clue for your listeners. So go back over the 65 episodes we've got and see who you think it might be. So listen, you mentioned feedback there. So how did you achieve feedback, and what was it? So any success stories? Did anybody hook up? Were any deals done? Relationships forged?
Yeah. So what for me, I spent 9 months pulling this event together, right? So I really did put everything into it. I basically started my business in April, and I was doing various bits of consultancy work and projects, and then I stopped doing all of that work to focus all my time and effort on Startup Week. So from September until May, that's all I did. I just worked on Startup Week, because it was such a big thing to pull off, and it was the right thing to do. But all along that process, I adopted, some of you, again, you'll be familiar with the lean startup principles, where you just do little iterations and you test and you measure and you see what the feedback. So all the way along, I was getting people, sponsors, speakers, partners to basically help me shape this event. I knew the broad outline, the schedule, the venues. The sponsors even came together very, very quickly, and the speakers, I kind of knew who I wanted as a speakers, but still, I was doing that iteration all along for the 9 months. But then during the week itself, you're collecting real-time feedback from people. You're constantly looking at the room, seeing how people are getting on, making sure people are having a good time. You're gathering feedback verbally. You're monitoring the social media. People are sending you messages of support throughout, all that sort of stuff. And then you can see things happening as well. So there's a lot of intangible stuff that is very hard to measure, but you can see new connections being formed, introductions being made that wouldn't have happened if they weren't in the same room together. Money did exchange hands. People did launch new products in that week as well. And then one of my favourite examples, fingers crossed it is definitely going to happen, is there's a lady called Cindy Moy who is from Minnesota, and she read a blog I wrote way back in 2012, again a bit tongue-in-cheek, about why tech startups and giants should leave London and head north to Newcastle specifically. So she read that, she was following me on social media, she was reading up about Newcastle, and she got in touch before Startup Week and said, I think Newcastle's where I need to be for my startup. So I'm going to come over for Startup Week and see what it's like, see if it is as good as I think it is. So she came over for the full 5 days, fell in love with the city. She'd never been before. Fell in love with the city, met all the right people, and now she's in the process of relocating from Minnesota to Newcastle. And fingers crossed she should be here next month in October. She's relocating with a 13-year-old daughter as well.
Wow.
And she's got a business partner who he loves the place and he wants to move over as well. So what an amazing story.
That is
a validation of
yes.
of the event, but of the region, I think, and the city in particular, that someone would come across from the US and think this is the place I need to be to start my business.
Well, you are now an ultra connector. There you go. You've upped the ante now. You're smashing it. That's amazing. That is a great story. And I hope you're going to share that a bit more. But what I'd love to go on to now is the fact you did the startup week in May.
Uh-huh.
And then now we have something leading on to that, which is the Newcastle Scale Up Summit in November, yeah?
Yeah. So when I did Startup Week, I wasn't sure if I was going to do a Scale Up Summit or not, but because I could see that on the Thursday, the day for the growing and scaling day of Startup Week, there were a lot of businesses that came to that were already, they'd been around for a few years, but they were just a bit stuck. They kind of hit a plateau where they just couldn't they didn't know what to do to take things to the next level. So because I could see those types of businesses were there, and from the feedback that we've had, I thought, right, okay, let's go a little bit deeper into some of those issues, and we'll do a follow-on event in November, so 6 months later. And so that's what Newcastle Scale Up Summit is. So what we're going to be covering there is all the issues and all the ways that you can grow your business and take it to the next level, whatever that level is, right? And all the barriers, all the things that can hold you back as well. We're going to try and overcome them. So we're going to cover how to do better sales and marketing of your existing products and services, because you can have amazing products and services, but if no one knows about them, you're not going to grow.
Amen.
How to, which is why they need people like you and people like me to, and then how to innovate and develop new products and services. That's another way to grow. How to improve your internal processes, so you've got more time and money to put back into the business, or to reward your staff to keep them loyal and keep them motivated. Right? How to find people with the right skills and talent that are going to take you to the next level, because the people that helped you start a business are not necessarily the ones that are going to help you grow. Then the other one is how to forge partnerships with bigger businesses. So Sage, I mentioned them before. Sage was a sponsor of Startup Week. They're a sponsor of Scale Up Summit. They've been a big supporter of what I'm doing. So they're sponsoring again, and they're speaking, because they've got a new partnership program that they're just about to launch, and they're really keen to have smaller businesses working with them to help them grow their business, Sage's business, but also which will help the small businesses, because if they can tap into Sage's global marketplace, that's potentially massive, particularly for tech and digital businesses to integrate with their cloud software. So if anyone's interested in piggybacking on Sage's brand and Sage's global presence, I would encourage them to come along and find out how they can do that, because they'll be wanting to meet people and sign them up and get them involved in what they're doing there. And then the other one is kind of how do events and membership organisations, even what value do they have? And I'm talking about the traditional ones, but also the newer, more niche ones as well.
Okay.
Because each one, what you tend to find is when people are starting a business, they really don't want to spend any money on anything.
Yeah.
But you get to a point where you have to actually spend money, right? You can't never spend money. And I've got another sort of motto that I share with my former Technorth colleague Doug, where you have to pay to play.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes you do have to actually pay to get in to the club, or to be in the circle that you need to be, and a membership organisation is one way of doing that. But even going to events, you know.
Yeah. Is there any mentoring in there, Paul?
There'll be some coaching and mentoring. We'll be touching on that. But so we've got panel discussions, but we've got coaches, we've got sales coaches, marketing, PR. We're looking to have some breakout sessions and a lot of interaction with the audience as well. But also, I'm trying to do a lot of stuff in the build up to the event and also after the event. So I'm even saying to people, if they buy a ticket, and they tell me they've bought a ticket, I'm happy to have like a 30-minute or even a 1 hour session with them. That could be a Skype session or a phone call or a face-to-face meeting, if they think that's really going to help them grow their business.
So from our listeners now, Paul, that's a little offer you can give them.
There's a little offer there, yeah.
If they're going to come to November's Scale Up Summit, how much are the tickets, Paul?
I'll give you and your listeners another little offer here, right?
This is what I was pushing at. I got there. So what was the sales guy?
So tickets they started at £60, then they went up to £80, and they're now up to £100, right?
Okay.
But if people enter the promo code Zenith, which is ZENITH, at newcastlescaleupsummit.eventbrite.com, then the price will drop down to £80.
Good man. Thanks for sharing that. Well done.
For that. And like I say, if they do that, if they buy a ticket and they get in touch and say they bought a ticket, and I check out and they have bought a ticket, then I'm happy to do a 30-minute Skype call or a face-to-face meeting or a phone call, whatever they need to help them if they think that would be valuable.
Be careful what you wish for, man.
I don't. Well, let's see.
You put it out there.
No, but it's because yes, I do events, but obviously I want it to be successful, and I'm trying to sell tickets, but it's bigger than that. I'm all about trying to help people start and grow businesses, and just to try and save them time and effort and money. Like you'll know this as well. Like sometimes all they need is that one connection, that one introduction, which can lead to that big deal, or save them a lot of time and effort and stress and money. So,
or even day one, Paul. The inspiration that can really help when you're sitting there with 600 other like-minded people. The energy in there, and everyone's kind of in the same boat. It can certainly inspire you when you come away from that week. I'm sure people have then had an impetus to kick on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it was really nice as well to see that and to feel the energy in the room. But also, there's a great lady called Lindsay Walton, who's got her own HR company. She really got stuck in and came to all the events, and she was doing some really lovely Facebook Live videos throughout the week documenting her experience. And she was saying things like how she felt so proud to be from the city and the region when she could see all these people coming together and supporting each other, and it was a real community feel, but like with a serious business, but a real collective effort where the whole business community came together. So that's a pretty special thing that we've got to try and keep that magic. So trying not to go too big too soon, but obviously want to go a little bit next year.
Yeah, so we're back in May again next year, yeah?
Yeah, so 14th to the 18th of May. So I'm aiming for 1,000 people next year.
No pressure. Is it the same 5 themes?
Same 5 themes. We'll
Excellent.
be doing the boiler shop at day 1 as well. So exactly the same themes. We're going to use maybe one or two different venues just to shake it up a bit. And there's some new venues have just become available as well. So, but it'll be the same sort of thing. And what's really good as well is I suppose it's a sign that it's working and that the people are getting excited that just before Startup Weekend, since I'm getting a lot of people from outside the region and other countries who are saying they want to be part of it and they want to speak at the event or they want to travel to Newcastle for this event. So that's really exciting that word is spreading and people want to be part of this thing now. So I
think what's great about the themes is that although it's titled Starter Week, you're not kind of alienating anybody else who is within a established business or a 2 or 3, 4, 5-year-old business. It's lots of different things to go on. So for me, if you have a team, if you're an employer with a team of let's say under 10, you could get a few tickets for the team and send them off under a few different days, and I'm sure they'll come back with ideas. Yeah,
no, definitely. So I mean, big businesses, like I said before, Sage was one of the headline sponsors, so they sent a bunch of people down because they knew that it would be good for their staff to understand the market that they're trying to serve, because their products are aimed at startups and micro businesses and SMEs. So for them to understand what issues they have and where the pain points are and stuff like that they can provide a much better service as a big company. So like big corporates can get a lot out of coming to the event, but also SMEs as well. And you might be a seasoned entrepreneur, but just to get a bit of motivation again and inspiration to like get back in the ring or to do something, shift your focus a little bit. So Startup Week definitely, although it is aimed at startups and early stage and new businesses, there's a lot for everyone there. Whereas Scale Up Summit is deliberately aimed at people who are already up and running and just want to go to the next level, whatever that level is.
It's a great point you make about people in companies, because there can be entrepreneurs, which we've used, a term we've used on the show before. So even though it's not their company, but they're very entrepreneurial, it could be perfect for them. So I think all it leaves us now, Paul, is to tell people where to find you, where the Ultra Connector, where to find you, and where to find out about these two Scale Up Summit in November and the Startup Week next May.
Yeah, sure. So, the easiest way to find me and the easiest way to connect with me is on Twitter. Twitter's my thing. So if you follow me at Lord Lancaster. So so Lord Lancaster is a Twitter account. Follow me there.
Now you realise I've got lots of US listeners, Paul. Now you've called yourself a Lord, they're going to be very excited over there and going to be wanting to hook up with you on Twitter and ask to come and see and have a ride on your horse around you.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Well, I'm working on it. I'm working on it on a proper lordship. I'm working on a title, but I'm not an official lord. I'm a social media lord. But
right, okay.
Where it comes from is many years ago I used to be a DJ, and then before that I was a wannabe DJ, like a bedroom DJ at school. Okay. And I used to write down what I thought were cool DJ names, and one of them was DJ Lord Lancaster, which I never used. When I was a DJ, I just used to call myself Paul Lancaster, but I forgot all about it. And then I was working for Shell Livewire Youth Enterprise Scheme, and I just got told, right, you need to create a username because you're managing all these discussion boards. What do you want to be called? And it just popped into my head. I was like, Lord Lancaster, because it denotes a level of authority. I quite like the alliteration, and it's a bit fun as well, so it's memorable. So people seem to like it, and I've just been Lord Lancaster ever since.
It's funny, we are talking recently, I can't remember who I was talking to now, where back in the day, you used to have a kind of username like that. So you didn't use your proper name. You wouldn't say Ian Barrett everywhere on Facebook or Twitter. You'd have this sort of hidden name, wouldn't you? And you'd be hanging around in Hotmail chat rooms and stuff, calling yourself Lord Lancaster. But now you just use your name. But yes, so there you go. So it's at Lord Lancaster.
Yeah, so at Lord Lancaster. Obviously, the Newcastle Starter Week, we've got a Twitter account which is NCL Startup Week. But it's easier to follow me, Lord Lancaster, and you can see all the things that are going on. But the website as well is just newcastlestartupweek.com, and then you can find all the information about Startup Week and Scale Up Summit on there.
That's great. I'll put all those links in the show notes, and maybe you might have inspired somebody in another country, Paul, to put their own Startup Week on. So, it's not just for us in the Northeast. No. You're inspiring the globe, my friend.
Hope so.
Well, thank you very much. It's been great to speak, and we shall be getting this out very soon so people can book a ticket for November.
Okay, good talking to you. And loving your show.
Thanks, man. Thanks to Paul for telling us all about his event, and how rewarding must that be to pack venues full of entrepreneurial folk and blow their minds with value galore. Well, that's what Paul and the team are doing. So I hope you've been inspired, listeners, to attend or maybe launch a similar event in one of your towns or cities. So if you enjoyed that, I'd really appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts or your chosen player. And be sure to keep in touch. I see and respond to every email and tweet. So until next time, I'm Ian Farrer. This is the Industry Angel, and thanks for listening.